Hey, I fooled you this time. I got two hats on. Now I'm a cop. I don't know, I just found this in the props department here. Special police. I'm the special police. Okay. I can make all kinds of jokes about me being the special police, but I probably won't and shouldn't. So we are on part 3 here of this series of how to make 3D storyboards using 3D software. And we're using a piece of software called FrameForge. If you haven't checked out parts 1 and 2, you should. Part 1 was where we built the 3D sets inside FrameForge. Part 2 was where we outfitted them. We put in people and props, and we built an exterior set and an interior. And so now we've got all this stuff ready to go. And what we've got to do now is we've just got to, actually go around with the camera. Remember, the whole point is to put a camera in 3D virtual space with sets you've built that are going to mimic the sets you're going to shoot on in the real world, and then take your camera around and go all kinds of angles, up and down, high angles, low angles, zoom in, zoom out. You can go Dutch if you want. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with the camera, but the point is you can move it around and take shots from whatever angles using whatever focal length, whatever lens you want to use on those cameras, which is a pretty nice option, and it really is good for kind of working your way, working in your head how you're going to shoot something in real life without actually having a bunch of sets there and props and things like that that you have to deal with. So let's get started on part 3, building digital storyboards. And we're back. So I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to pull up a piece of video where I have pre-recorded myself going through the motions on FrameForge. And so let's look at this video, and I will talk you through it, and we're going to actually finish making 3D storyboards in this third part. So let's get there, and let me get started on this. All right, so I'll make this full screen. You can see it better. So as we can see there, we've got FrameForge back open. We've built 2 different sets. Our first set is an interior, which we just saw, and now we're moving into the exterior here. And I may want to change my camera a little bit. Remember, we've got different controls. I can look at an overhead view. I can move my camera around this way. This particular camera's color is red, and you can engage multiple cameras on here up there where it says monitor not in service, but really just one camera because we're shooting film style, not multicam or TV sitcom style. So we're going to be moving this camera around and taking snapshots with it. And you can see I'm zooming in using the camera controls at the bottom. I can change the focal length by zooming in and out. I can crane the camera up and down, get it off the ground. I could set it up to where I pretend this is like a drone shot and it's flying in the air or something like that. So I'm going to grab this camera and find what I like to be the best angle here. This is a high angle. I may want to tilt it down now. I'm seeing so much sky. So let me go do that, do a little tilt. And there we go. So let's pretend that this is going to be my opening shot for this particular storyboard I'm making, or video that, storyboard for a video. And again, this is a 3D environment. I can move around anywhere I want. And I'm going to store the shot by clicking on Store Shot on either place, either right on the big picture in the middle there or up on the top left. And so I click Store Shot. And now it's storing this first shot. And of course, I need to number it. I know it's a computer. It should know how to number. This calls it a long shot. You might call it a wide shot or an extreme wide shot. And so I'm going to put a small description here of what this shot is. And then I'm going to put, this is what I teach my students to do. You can do this however you think works for you, but I'm thinking about clients and how they're not particularly film scholars. So, you might want to write a little more detailed about each shot here. So what I always teach them to do is number the shot, tell me what kind of shot it is, so the little heading, and then a little bit more description of what kind of shot it is. And then if there's anything on this that's from the script that's verbal, whether it's a narrator or an actor talking or something like that. So I'll probably go ahead, I'm just making this up as I go along. I'll put in a narrator who's saying something, and we're pretending this is the exterior of our school, MediaTech Institute. And I'll just have a narrator saying some words about MediaTek to get started into this, whatever this is, like a little commercial or something like that. So here it says, here at MediaTech Institute, we make it a priority to get to and ... Then I'll hit apply. I've got everything on there that I want. And I only put on there verbally what is said over that shot. If it ends in the middle of a sentence, then it ends in the middle of a sentence. It'll pick back up on the next one. Now down here, there's this thing called the shot manager. Oh, and I'm covering it. So let me move this over here. And I clicked on the shot manager. Maybe I'll put it up here for now. I clicked on the shot manager to get into this area, and I want this to be like a drone shot moving forward, so it's flying through space. So I'm going to go ahead and pick some arrows to show camera movement down there. I'm going to show some camera movement going on with an arrow. And that's usually what I use the arrows for, is for camera movement, not necessarily showing movement within the frame. So the shot manager was down here. The shot manager was down on the bottom right. And so now we're going to go, we've got our first shot, and that's the exterior. So we're going to back to our set we pre-built, which is the set going on here with the storyboard of inside the classroom. So we built this earlier in part 2. If you need to see how to build these, that's cool. Go to part 2. I'm going to go ahead and move this back down so we can see that I'm now going to store this shot, which is a kind of a wide shot of the classroom. And I will go ahead and put in my data for this particular shot, and I'll number it shot number 2. Give it a little small brief description there, and then a bigger description underneath that. I'll type something in. Remember, I'm trying to put as much data as I can here so that people understand what I'm doing. This is a digital thing after all, and it's just data for for people who might not understand what your vision is for your movie or your short or your commercial or whatever you're making. We do this particularly in my commercial class, where we do short form video, 30-second videos, and we treat it as if we're in an ad agency situation. So I want to think about clients who are not as film scholars and how they might think about things. This particular one, I also finished the narration on this shot. We had it saying something at the beginning of the shot. It kind of ended in the middle of the sentence. So we make it a priority to get to know each of our students. And, if that's where the desires for the, what is it going to be? For their future. Okay, cool. So that's where the narration ends on this particular shot. So I'm going to say apply. Now I have stored 2 different shots down here in the shot manager. I have stored 2 different shots down here. Down here in the shot manager, there are 2 different shots. Now I'm going to start moving my camera around. As you can see, my camera itself is going to move around. And I'm going to probably get a kind of a medium close-up of the teacher as the teacher starts speaking. So when that happens, I'm going to move the camera around in this virtual space. See what I'm doing there? I'm moving it around in this virtual space, and I'm grabbing the camera, moving it in front of the teacher. And so we went from that exterior to the wide shot of the classroom, and now the teacher who's going to say something to probably this student that's sitting up close to them. So now if this is the shot I like, this is everything I like about it, how far it is off the ground and the focal length, I will store that one as shot number 3. This, kind of a medium close-up, and I'll give it some data. Remember, the whole idea of FrameForge here is to give yourself a 3D space, and you can, without having real actors there taking up time and money, you can work out what you need to work out for your shots. Some people can draw their shots, but some people can't think visually like that, and they need a tool, and this is a great tool for that. So the teacher says something here to the student, and I'll put that dialogue in there as well. So the dialogue is with the actual shot where the dialogue is said. And Rachel, tell me a little bit about yourself, or about what part of the film industry you'd like to work in. All right, cool. We've got our dialogue. We've got our shot listed. Now we're going to hit apply. Now we have saved 3 different shots down here in the shot manager on the bottom right. So we're moving on to gonna probably get a reaction from the girl student there that he's talking to. Rachel is what we're naming her. So I'm gonna move my camera around. I'm craning it down to her height, and I'm gonna get the reaction of her talking to him. So he was on the left side of the frame looking at her with some look space open to the right side of the frame. So now we're gonna do the opposite, where she's on the right side of the frame with the look space on the left, like she's looking at him. So we hit store shot again. We move into shot number 4, make it a medium close-up as well, give a small description of the shot. And I'm not going to go through too many shots here, but I need you to, with a little bit of repetition, see what we're doing. And you can always tell that you can make as many sets and as many shots on the sets as you want, and you can keep storing them, and then eventually you can rearrange them, fix things you need to fix, and then export it out as a nice looking document that looks like a nicely laid out storyboard document. So that's what we're doing now. So now the student, Rachel, needs to answer the teacher with a piece of dialogue on her shot. So we're adding that. Now at the bottom, where you can see a thing that says discard this data if you want to get rid of everything and start over. Continues prior shot as if you're doing a long dolly shot and you're trying to show the beginning frame and the end frame. You can kind of connect the pictures that way. I don't use it that often. Most of the time I'm doing exactly what you're seeing here. So now that we've added her response, my goal is to be a script supervisor. I love being on sets and keeping track of everything. Okay, cool. And we're going to apply that. So I think I'll just put in like maybe 2 more shots, and let's go back or maybe just 1. I'm not sure, 1 or 2 more shots. And now we're going to make a 2-shot here. And so I've pulled the camera back to a 2-shot, making sure that I'm staying on this side of the 180. So I'm trying not to change the look spaces. I'm trying to keep everything on the right side of the 180 plane. If you don't know what that is, look at other videos we will show for things like that on our website. But we're keeping the look spaces the same. He's on the left side of the frame. She's on the right side of the frame. So this will be our 5th shot here. Kind of a, I don't know if you want to call this a medium wide, whatever. And it doesn't have as many options there as I wish they had. But you can always write what you want to write right here in the heading part. So now that we have got this going, the next thing is to write out a little more of a description, and then we will, if there's any more dialogue on this, which I can't remember, I'm going to put dialogue on this. Well, why would I remember it? I'm making it up as I go along, right? Okay. A little bit longer description here is always nice of the shot, so that people looking at this that are not film students, film scholars, can understand what's going on. And then a response from the teacher in dialogue. Again, you want to keep this stuff attached to each shot so that everything moves with it. So, what is said here is what's said while you see this image. So that's the idea, is to keep the audio and the video together for the storyboard. And we're almost done with this part. Let's go back, and I think we might add 1 more frame just to even this out and make it 6. All right, so we now have 5 frames, and they're stored on the bottom right down in the shot manager. And let's go ahead, and we're going to go back and do a super wide shot again. One last shot. Maybe it's a high angle. Tilt it down some. Remember, the camera controls are at the bottom. The object controls are on the left. And then when you're engaged in overhead view, you have some more controls on the right. But we are not engaged in overhead view right now. So we're engaged in the view that's looking through the camera that's represented by the camera that's the color red. So now we're getting our final shot here. Let's say we're happy with that, so we store the shot. This will be shot 6. We're going to number it, give it what type of shot it is, quick heading, larger heading. Now, when you're dealing with 3D spaces, it's best if you know the size of your set, and you can make your set when you build them to be the right size of your real set. That way the lenses on here work. And what I mean by that is, if you were up against a wall, how would you know what lens would give you the shot you want if you can't go back any further because your back's up against a wall? If you had built this set to be exact dimensions to the feet, then the shots themselves and the focal length of those shots will actually work, which is pretty cool. I once had a friend of mine who's a DP. Once he saw this program, he had to buy it immediately, because to him this was great for working out things ahead of time when you're just on your own, as opposed to being out on a set with a whole lot of money being spent, with a lot of crew and gear and actors. Okay, we're applying that. That's our sixth and final one. As you can see, we can move back and forth between the two sets. We can add more sets if we want to. And let's pretend we are now finished with all of this part. We've gathered our shots, and on the bottom right down there is a thing called Shot Manager. You can see the Shot Manager on the bottom right. And I clicked on Shot Manager, and what we got now is we have arrows we can choose if we want to show camera movement. We have other things that we can do. We can go down and change our previously written stuff if we want to change the way the dialogue is or things like that. I'm going to pick an arrow here that I can make look like it's dollying in from the left. And I know you're thinking, oh, that arrow's going up. I can add it here and then change the size of the arrow, move it to wherever I want to move it, and then change the direction of the arrow so that it's pointing this way. And if I wanted, I could write back in the camera description, as it dollies in from the left. So I'm thinking I would do this on the first shot to reveal it, although I'm actually typing it on the sixth shot right now. But I could add some more direction as to why that arrow is there to give the reader of the storyboard a little more information. So as we move forward from this is when I probably realize I can look at it and go, oh man, I put that on the wrong shot. So what can I do? How can I get these arrows on the proper shot? I wanted it on that shot there, not the ending shot. Well, you can easily move things around. You can grab the shots and reorder them, move them around. You can grab the arrow from one shot and then put it back on a different shot. I mean, there's all kinds of, you can copy paste like I just did there. You can get rid of the arrow from the shot you don't want. You can copy paste the camera direction stuff too, like I'm doing here. I'm copying and pasting it into the shot that I really wanted this camera direction on. And there's just all kinds of things like that that you can do to make this work. And I'll get rid of that final arrow. So what I always tell the students is when they're working with me, they have to make not only a PDF of the storyboard, something that will be printable, but they also should save out each shot individually as a higher res so they can make an animatic with it if they wanted to. So right now we're going to just make the PDF, which would be the storyboard, the whole point of what we're doing, making digital storyboards utilizing 3D space. So I'm going to have one item selected, one of the pictures selected. I'm going to click print selected. You don't have to have all of them selected yet. And this is the information the way I like it. It's lined up in kind of a nice way, 2 columns, 6 panels. I like this. So, and I'm going to say print all shots, not just the selected shots, and every shot that's in here, which is all 6. And it brings up my printer icon, which I'm not going to actually print it. I'm going to make a PDF so I can save that out as a digital file. I can change the extension because it's now not a previs, it's a PDF. But I can change the whole thing if I want. And where am I going to save it? Well, I've made a folder where I'm saving all of these things on the desktop. So I'll go find that folder, and I'm going to save it in there. And I'm going to, I don't know if I'm going to save it in that folder or make a new folder. I guess I'm going to save it in that folder. Click on Save, and I have now saved it out. Let's go look and see what that looks like, what I just saved, because this is a nice looking thing that can look pretty professional whenever you're dealing with clients who are looking at things that for the first time. Now that was the FrameForge I just opened there. And then let's go look at the actual PDF of what I did, which is the second one there. And let me go click on it. And this is what I just got. So this is my now something. Notice it's got really cool things like it's got the descriptions, it's got the shot, it's got the overhead view, it's got how far it is off of the ground, the camera. It's got the millimeter of lens. Is it tilting or rolling the camera at all? So there's all kinds of good information there that lends us a real professional look. And right there, that's 5 foot 3 inches off the ground, 15 millimeter lens. And so this is what I always ask my students to give me as their storyboard when we do a storyboard in 3D space, is something that looks like this. And so I might make a folder, call it Animatic Stills, because I also have them export all the images as for animatics. So we're going to go back in there now. Again, if you don't need to do this, don't do this part. But for my students, part of their grade is to make an animatic later, sort of a 30-second version of their commercial with just these drawings and sound and things like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the arrows off, because in my animatic, if I'm going to slow zoom in on something, then I'm going to do that in Premiere, Adobe Premiere, when I'm actually editing the animatic. So instead of printing selected like I did before, I'm exporting selected, and I've got to have at least one of them selected. I'll export. Now I want this to be high def, which is 1920 by 1080. 340 by 629 is not high def, so I'm going to say other size. That's okay. It's going to give me some warnings. Just say okay, and then I'm going to say export all shots. And I got to tell it where to go, but I made a folder called Animatic Stills, and that's where I'm going to save it. And then the height, well, 1920 by 1080, I need to change that height to 1080, because that's the height in 1920 by 1080. And then yes, anti-alias is good for smooth edges, and click OK. So now I'm exporting each of these 6 shots that are very large that can be used if you want to put an animatic together. And an animatic is sort of a moving version of the storyboard. That's the right length and maybe some audio to it. So now I'm quitting out of this. Let's go look at our animatic stills real quick. Obviously, I saved my project before I quit out of it. This was the PDF, and then now the animatic stills are in here, and I can look at each of them individually. And there we go, a higher res version of each of these animatic stills. And we are now ready to make sure we save it, and we are ready to move on. We have done all 3, so you've successfully watched all 3 parts of this having to do with FrameForge working in a 3D environment to make storyboards. And come on down to MediaTech Institute and take a tour sometime and see where we're learning all this stuff on a day-to-day basis. This is just one very small aspect of a lot of things we do when it comes to movies and TV and anything video film related. Come down to check out MediaTech and check us out. We'll see you later from Dallas.